Yeah, not have a mobile phone.
Why should he?
We got a busy one for you. Busy weekend to reflect on, I suppose. Gary Breen with Dave McIntyre in the minutes after Manchester United's defeat at the Amex. We brought you that game live, so the two lads were pumped and giving their opinion. We'll bring you their thoughts. We have Shane Duffy scored against Manchester United, talking to Dave as well after the game. We'll bring you some intelligent, lucid thoughts from Pat Nevin as well very shortly. And in a moment, Kevin Kilbane. Latest, again, as Richie said, at Sellers Park, 1-0 Liverpool. Milner with the goal, 52 minutes on the clock. The weekend that was saw Cardiff draw 0-0 with Newcastle. A game, as you'll hear, watched by Kevin Kilbane. We had Spurs with Harry Kane breaking his duck, his August duck, beating Fulham 3-1. We had Bournemouth up to 5th, beating West Ham 2-1. West Ham 0-2, that hiding at Anfield, and then a loss at home. No fun for them early doors for Pellegrini. Leicester beat Wolves 2-0. Everton, Richarlison continuing his good form, beat Southampton 2-1. The crazy game that was Chelsea 3, Arsenal 2 is one we'll talk about with Pat. And then yesterday, differing fortunes, contrasting fortunes for the Manchester club. 6-1 for City, who were just glorious against Huddersfield, and Manchester United, who were just terrible against Brighton. Kevin Kilbane not around this evening, but he was in the office earlier on, and we said hello. Kevin Kilbane, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. How are you?
It's quite the pleasure to have you here.
Hardly, let's be honest now, hardly a pleasure to see my face, isn't it, really?
Premier League weekend number 2 of the 2018-19 season.
Yeah, long season, Joe.
Where were you for the weekend? What were you doing?
This week I was at Cardiff and Newcastle on Saturday, which was an absolute classic, as we know, classic entertainment. And then I was at the hurling Sunday. So,
oh yeah, okay, the hurling.
Yeah,
so we'll come to Cardiff Newcastle, but of the games yesterday, City obviously very, very impressive. And then Manchester United we're going to talk more about with Pat, and Gary Breen as well was at the game. So Dave McIntyre was speaking to him at full time. They were at the game, and it was a complete mess, really. Bailly and Lindelof are not going to be the future for Manchester United centre-half woes.
No. The thing is, Eric Bailly played very well against Leicester, first game of the season, and anyone noticed within that game, the way that he tackles, he goes in with 2 feet every single time he's going in for a challenge. Even if he clearly wins the ball, he runs a risk with every tackle that he's going to make of a yellow card or something more serious. Or, as we saw yesterday, giving penalties away.
It's interesting on Match of the Day too last night, Paul Ince, for the one where he dived in and gave the penalty. He was just saying to Bailly, it was like he almost went into like footballer mode, as if he was just almost talking to himself. And as Bailly was about to make the tackle when the Brighton player was about to shoot, Ince just said, just let him shoot there. Just let him shoot. He's on his left foot. You've got the best keeper in the world. Yeah. He's at an angle. Just let him shoot. Bailly seems to see the ball and almost go into panic mode.
Exactly what it is. He does get caught out. He runs off his shoulder. You understand with that, where if the ball's played from deep over his shoulder, he's so quick, he's probably relied on that pace throughout his career, where a ball's played over his shoulder, he can almost let a striker get away from him, have the pace to get back. But the level that so many of the strikers are at now, you're always going to be, if you give the striker that extra second or extra yard to get away from you, invariably they'll get a strike off. So it's always that panic to get back goal side to make the challenge with him. And as I said, he doesn't hold back with his challenges. He actually played well against Leicester. As I said, he played well against Leicester, but watching that game, he struggled at times with his tackling, with the timing of his tackle. And that was the same against Brighton. It was exactly the same this week, and nothing's changed. And that was the same last season. And if you're looking at it, if you're asking there about the relationship with Lindelof, we spoke about him last week. He simply isn't good enough.
The damning verdict here is Mourinho bought both of these players.
Yeah.
If you're Ed Woodward...
I think Bailly has something, Joe. I wouldn't say that. I think he has something. But Lindelof is not. He's not the calming influence that he needs alongside him, because he's not been good enough. So he's more or less just thinking about himself rather than trying to maybe organise the back four.
So there's hope for Bailly. You can work with Bailly in the training ground. You can maybe try and soften some of those edges. Who goes alongside him of the players that Mourinho has?
That's the thing. I think we're looking at leadership. Smalling and Joe. Smalling is a good defender, I think, at times. He's just not great on the ball, so you'd think that Bailly probably needs someone that's a little bit more organised and someone that's a bit better on the ball than him. Whichever combination that you're going to use within United's back four, the two centre-halves, it doesn't seem good enough in my mind. It doesn't seem good enough. I think Phil Jones has had his moments where he's looked good at times across the course of his career with United, but even him, I think he's rash at times. I think he makes rash challenges. Smalling, you'd probably say the same with as well. There's no composure there. If you look at someone like Van Dijk for Liverpool, and I know he's the cream, he is the top class centre-halves.
He's the cream who only cost 20 million more than Lindelof.
Yeah, well, it's true.
In that context, like, it's a massive waste of money.
Yeah. I didn't get it with Lindelof straight away anyway. I'd only seen him play in small doses. I didn't see a lot of him. But immediately when he went to United, he wasn't even playing the Premier League last season.
Well, Mourinho said he's not quite English-style player just yet. He's a European nights.
They were playing European nights, and what does that tell you?
And then the European nights didn't go so well anyway.
No, it didn't. So yeah, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for Mourinho. Mourinho's signings that he's got in, certainly from a defensive point of view, or even United's signings in general over the last 3 or 4 seasons defensively haven't worked. Yeah. They haven't worked. Darmian hasn't worked. Luke Shaw hasn't worked, although we're seeing the best of him probably now. And whoever he's played a right winger at right back. That started, of course, under maybe Ferguson, I'd probably say to an extent. But he's a right winger, Antonio Valencia. Left back, you've been playing Ashley Young there predominantly, who's a left winger. So that says it all.
Yeah, Mourinho wasn't in great form before the game. He's not happy with the new Amazon Prime documentary on Man City, which we're going to get someone this week who's watched it to come on and give us a review of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it. I haven't seen it myself yet, but apparently it's good.
Yeah, apparently it's good. Now, it does have the dead, cold hands of censorship all over it, so it's a certain image you're getting of Man City.
I've heard it's slightly better than the Juventus one. Have you watched the Juventus one on Netflix?
I could stomach it for about 15 minutes, and the writing was on the wall early in that one.
Yeah, I think you're on the mark with that one there, yeah. 15 minutes was enough, but I watched it all and didn't get much better after the first 15 minutes.
But apparently the Man City one is worth a watch, if nothing else because you get to see Guardiola in dressing room mode. I mean, that's maybe the big appeal of it. So, but Mourinho came out, there's a few things in it that Mourinho doesn't like. The narrator, Ben Kingsley, at one point talks ahead of the Manchester derby about how it's like defence versus attack, possession versus whatever, and it's possession versus attack versus park the bus. You know, this was how it was.
Does he say,
This is how it's billed in the documentary. And also with De Bruyne, they focus on him quite early in the documentary series, just what a brilliant player he is. And so they show him doing amazing things and then put up Mourinho in his 2013 press conference for Chelsea saying, well, look, De Bruyne, he's not quite at the races. So Mourinho's pretty angry about this. He's in all the papers yesterday saying no class, City of no class. This, sort of ironic really, but this was his big issue before the game. You can make a great movie without being disrespectful, was Jose's point. So he wasn't in much better mood after the game yesterday. Here he is on beIN Sports being his charming self.
Manchester United are a team with a big reputation. Was that performance befitting of a Manchester United side?
We made mistakes and we were punished by the mistakes.
It didn't seem that there's enough communication, enough chemistry among your team. Is that fair to say, even with the substitutions in the second half, the quality going forward, the communication?
You must be fantastic in your job to have the ability to from the stands, to speak about chemistry between players.
Was that the response you wanted and expected? Is that enough from your side?
We made mistakes. We were punished by the mistakes. I cannot say more than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, he did BBC as well, and he was saying that I was criticised last year for being too open and too publicly critical of the team when we lost, so this year I'm now not going to do that. So that's his idea for this month.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, and we'll see how long it lasts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's just miserable. He was talking about this Brighton game even on the pre-season tour of the States, saying how much better their preparation was than United's, and hey presto, here we are. The short version of the general play seems to be that Brighton just pressed Manchester United brilliantly. That's kind of the general analysis.
Well, that's the way it was. Again, I didn't watch the game live. I caught with all the highlights from the game as well. But I fancied Brighton to take. Brighton were dreadful the first day of the season. They were down. Where were they? Watford. They were dreadful against Watford. First, honestly, they just showed nothing. But Brighton's home form was kept them in the Premier League last season. Worst Premier League away record last year. The home form is something that's going to get them right this season across the course of the year. And I think they'll probably stay up again. And that is what they bring to it. Chris Hughton has done a magnificent job there. Great to see Shane Duffy scoring his first Premier League goal as well. That was great for him from a personal point of view, certainly from an Irish point of view. We don't have many Irish goal scorers anyway in the Premier League, so that was great. And in general, Brighton just outfought them, outworked them, and that it wasn't great football that's opened them up at times, but it was just outworked Man United, and Man United didn't look up for it. The extended highlights of what I saw, but that's what I gauged from the game. Yeah,
I had that feel, and worrying even more so because the nature of the afternoon was that in the lunchtime kickoff, Manchester City make a real statement and sort of say, okay, over to you lads.
Yeah.
Let's see what you can come back with. City were so good, 6-1 win. David Silva, it's hard to pick a man of the match, but I watched the first half very closely. We were in here obviously doing the the show, and then hurling final build-up kind of took over. But in the first half, David Silva was just a joy to watch. He's just immaculate.
I watched this game in full, and how can you look beyond the player that scored a hat-trick in Sergio Aguero and you're looking at somebody else within the game? But you spot on. He was the one that was immediately jumping out to me whenever City were forming the attacks. Benjamin Mendy was outstanding again, someone who we were gutted that he got injured so early last season. We didn't see the best of him. Yeah. We're hoping we can get a full season out of him. But especially with De Bruyne missing now, you mentioned De Bruyne there. De Bruyne and Silva as a pairing were key to City last season. There might be an extra bit of pressure on David Silva this season, but I think with what he's been through, we also probably haven't seen the pictures from the weekend where his son was at the game. I think it was the first game there with his son this weekend. Yeah. And now he probably even thinks himself, look, it's an injury to De Bruyne. Yeah, there might be a bit more pressure on me, but I'll take that.
It must be an incredible weight off his shoulders to have his son healthy.
Definitely. Definitely.
I mean, I think we all overlook that stuff. Like last year when he's playing football, it must have been the last thing on his mind.
And by all accounts, he was having a week off to be at home back in Spain with his wife and child, and he wasn't able to get himself full week's preparation, and he was used at times coming off the bench. Even when he was starting games, he wasn't having a full week's preparation training. So Guardiola's obviously looked after him, and they said the pictures that I saw at the weekend were great. The free kick was just absolutely immaculate, perfectly struck, and overall his game intelligence is I think it's a cut above anyone that you'll see. I know De Bruyne picks certain passes out. De Bruyne's got probably different abilities to what Silva has, but the positions that he takes up, the ability to find space, I don't think there's anybody better than him, and I think in general he might be able to carry that mantle for the next few months while De Bruyne is out.
The way he can kind of manipulate his body and turn last second given the situation, he seems to always make the right decision. Like, I mean, you've been down there. Clearly I haven't. I watch from a lofty TV camera where it looks much easier than it is. He seems to have an awareness. Like the ball is fed into him in the trickiest areas. It might be kind of just inside the box, right edge of the box, and he knows suddenly last minute which way to turn, to spin. And like you can give an insight. Like it must be so difficult to see everyone around you
and to mark him. You imagine playing against him at a level you're playing against him, not necessarily as a teammate alongside him, so you understand maybe what the opposition are actually going through trying to mark him. I think it's a good thing when youngsters are maybe watching games. Sometimes you're watching games, and most of us in general, you'd follow the ball and things like that, but he's the type of player where you watch. If you can watch him specifically and just try to keep your eye on him in the ball, he'll never just come to a ball. He'll never just come into space where bodies are. He can take the ball with bodies around him. Yes, clearly he can do that to help teammates out. But he's always doing maybe counter movements away from the ball. The ball's maybe travelling down one side of the pitch. He'll be pulling away into areas where he knows it might not necessarily be the first pass he'll get, but he'll get it 2 or 3 passes down the line. He's got that ability, I feel, to find himself in positions where he knows he's going to have an influence on the attack.
If there's one thing I think we're going to fall in love with this season, it's going to be a Mendy first-time cross.
Well, anyone that saw Mendy playing for Monaco... Yeah.
I should say, by the way, you were the first person who ever mentioned Mendy to me.
Yeah, I don't think you'd see... But when you're covering the Champions League, you've seen that great... I mean, it was a great Monaco team. You only need to look at the money that Monaco team made.
You're still heartbroken that Monaco team was...
I'd love to have seen them for another season. I'd love to have seen them for another season or two at least, but I understand the way that it works. But Mendy in particular, when the ball's been played out to Mendy, I think he's got a great knowledge and a great ability to recognise while that ball's travelling to him, right, this can go in first time, or I need to take a touch. And it's almost as if he's watching where the fullback is that's near to him or the wide man that's near him, and he'll say, right, and he adjusts his body shape, he adjusts his position as the ball's coming into him, so he kind of runs around the ball at times, and the way that he fizzes the ball in, and we spoke about this 2 years ago, he is the best crosser in European, if not world football. Like, that's the way that I would see with Mendy. His ability to put it in first time, even when he's on the run and he takes a touch to put it in, his ability to put crosses into areas. You only need to look at Aguero's, the hat-trick goal that he scored yesterday. Picking out Aguero, yes, he's not necessarily gone to pick out Aguero. He's just gone to fizz it into an area. Aguero and teammates off him can time the runs.
He's bending it around the defender, and he knows that. And strikers are going to realise very quickly, geez, he's putting these in first time. I can make the run.
And what exactly? You're spot on with that. Strikers constantly moan, get it in early, cross it early. Yeah. When a winger would take 3 and 4 touches, pass it back to a fullback, obviously then the defence then gets back into shape, easy to restructure. Yeah. But Mendy crosses so early and quick. Strikers just need to time the run off a centre half. The pace is going in on the ball, so the defenders can't react to it either. So I would imagine he's probably going to end up this season with 15, 20 assists with the ability that he's got. I think he's probably got 3 already this season. So that will be a continued theme for City this season. And we're all hoping that he can stay fit, because if he stays fit, he will be massive for City this season, yeah. A
very quick note, by the way, on Aguero. So Guardiola was talking afterwards and he said he's never seen him like this. So Aguero had knee surgery over the summer. I hadn't quite realised that. And Guardiola was saying that he came back perfect, he says. After the surgery with the doctor, he came back, he feels free. And he said when he came back, they went, ooh. That was how Guardiola kind of put it in the post-match interview. He said, oh my God, ooh. So he says when this happens, he's one of the best strikers in the world without a doubt, because he said he doesn't stop moving now, which is kind of what you felt was maybe an issue he had with Aguero.
Yeah,
so
you're right,
he made a point of saying he doesn't stop running, and he's got a hat-trick. One last thing on Cardiff Newcastle. So good old public spat between Chris Sutton and Harry Arter, who was on the show last week. So Chris Sutton watched Cardiff, the same game you were at. They're not going to score enough goals. They're not good enough to stay in the Premier League. I have a lot of time for Neil Warnock, but they're going to be outclassed this season, as they were last weekend as well. They'll go down maybe with a record low points tally. And he said, Cardiff, Fulham spent 100 million, Wolves 70 million. Why are Cardiff going to stay up? They're not. They're down. I'm sorry. Harry Arter said this was ridiculous. You try and ignore it because they're silly comments, especially from fellow professionals. For whatever reason, they feel like they may need to get a bit more publicity to get better jobs, which is not something that Chris Sutton would ever do.
No.
It's not like 2 years ago Chris Sutton suddenly said, I'm going to start being controversial now, and then appeared everywhere. That did not happen. Cardiff, did they look like they're in big trouble to you?
You can't really disagree with what Chris Sutton's saying to an extent, but I think it is disappointing when it gets thrown so open. You go down with a record low and things like this. That's if I was in that Cardiff dressing room now, I'd use that and I'd go, I'll tell you what then. Sod him. Come on. We're going to go every time there'll be a message to Chris Sutton. Every time you get a win or you get a point or whatever it'll be, they're not going to score enough goals. It will be about the collective. Harry ought to play well. I was quite impressed at the weekend. Perhaps maybe even lucky to stay on the pitch, I think.
Okay.
But in general, it was a poor match. Both sides were poor. I think both sides are going to struggle. I think Newcastle will have enough with Benitez's experience and what he's done.
Yeah.
But I think with Cardiff, I think they will go down here.
Kev, thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe.
There you are, the very handsome Kevin Kilbane, who was with us all too fleetingly this afternoon. More from Kev across the week. It's still 1-0 Liverpool, Palace 0. Liverpool won, 69 minutes on the clock. The goal scorer, penalty taker James Milner off, Jordan Henderson on. Palace had a really good spell for about 20 minutes in the second half. A bit more possession, 1 or 2 chances. Liverpool have seen that out. They're back. Liverpool very much in the front foot again in the Palace half, passing the ball around. That said, they've had some heartbreak on this ground in the not too distant past, so I'm sure they would like to get a second. But 1-0 as things stand, 70 minutes on the clock. So we touched on Shane Duffy there, scored a goal yesterday. Dave McIntyre was there for us, did catch up with the goal scorer.
To be sent in by Pascal Gross all the way to the far post. That could have gone anywhere. Still not clear. Gross in again. Scored goal by Knockout. Oh, it's another goal. Shane Duffy has put Brighton 2 goals up. Unbelievable scenes at the Amex Stadium. 27 minutes played. It's Brighton 2, Manchester United 0.
Shane, the last time we spoke in this tunnel, you just got a hiding off Liverpool and you were good enough to come out and speak. It's far easier to come out and speak to me today.
Yeah, it was a good game. Obviously, huge result for us after disappointing result, but probably more disappointing performance. So we had a point to prove, and we knew we were a lot better than what we showed last week, and we did show it today.
Was it mainly down to attitude? Like, I mean, the 2 performances were night and day in terms of your application and your execution.
I don't know. No, I think the lads never want to go out and not play well. It just wasn't our day. We just didn't turn up. Watford were better than us last week, and that's the way this league is. And then obviously it's not hard to get up for big games like this, and we're at home. It makes a huge difference for us, and we've got to take that and do that away for them now.
When you go 2-0 up against a Manchester United team that then hits back, we often see teams crumble then, end up losing the game 3-2, 4-2, 5-3. But you guys kicked on again and got the next goal. I mean, how important is that, and what does it say about the steel within the team?
Obviously, it was a difficult game. They had a lot of possession, and we were disappointed with the second phase on the corner, and obviously that gives them a little lift, and then they made a few changes at half time, and they were on top. And obviously I'm disappointed with the penalty at the end, but I think we've done enough to deserve the 3 points overall. Thought we were a better team. You've
spent so much time with the heart of that defence with Lewis, and then you lose him, and you kind of have to shepherd a new guy through who's making his debut. How tough was that for you?
No, he was great. He's very experienced. He's just played at the World Cup, and he's a very experienced player, and as you can see, he's fit us straight in, and he dealt with everything that was through his way, and that's why we bring players like that into the squad. They improve in case someone does get injured, and he was great, and I just hopefully Donkey's not too bad.
We got a thoughts of Gary Breen. He was on commentary with us today, and he felt in the last half an hour that you just couldn't see this traditional Manchester United siege. You couldn't see where it was going to come from. Did you get that sense on the field that like we have these guys contained here today?
I think our shape and structure was set up. They frustrate them. We knew they were going to have a lot of the ball, and that was sort of our plan. Obviously, we wanted to counter a little bit more and keep the ball a bit better, but obviously they're a good team, and we frustrated them to side, and obviously they weren't probably going to score unless the penalty, so I thought we were very good defensively second half.
And finally, Shane, did you have to reassess your goals after last season? Because I think everyone would have been happy with 17th place in the Premier League last season, your first season up there. I mean, have you had to reshape your ambitions, or is it still that case?
No, it's still the same goal: stay in this league, get as many points as we can, but we just take it game by game, and that's what we do. And we know we can't get carried away with a result. It's 3 points, and we know what's coming up next. It's even harder. So it's the beauty of the league, and you've got to get ready, dust it off, and enjoy today, and then try and prepare for Liverpool tomorrow. Simple as.
There we are, Shane Duffy, good to have as many Irish internationals as possible playing Premier League football and certainly scoring in Premier League as well. Still 1-0 Liverpool, 73 minutes on the clock at Selhurst Park. Taking a short break, and then the very brilliant Pat Nevin with us on the weekend.
Football on Off the Ball. In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play. Moncrief.
As hard as it will be, they should go their own separate ways, says this one texter. If she has only one setting, make her sound like a blinking washing machine. If she's only one setting, this isn't going to change unless you reprogram her.
Oh.
Too much work. Just get a new girlfriend. Yeah, from the girlfriend shop.
I am a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I have 7 settings.
I enjoyed this position.
This is new. You will like this.
Moncrief. Sponsored by Avantcard. Back tomorrow from 2 p.m. on News Talk.
If our lecture theatres sound like they could be anywhere, it's because they are. If our classmates don't sound like your typical classmates, it's because they aren't. When you choose to study online with DCU Connected, class comes to you wherever you are. Receive all the benefits of a degree from Dublin City University, ranked in the top 1% of young universities worldwide and Ireland's University of Enterprise. For more information, visit dcu.ie/connected. DCU Connected. Excellence in online education.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Still 1-0 Liverpool against Palace, 75 minutes on the clock. That music can only mean one thing. Hello, Pat Nevin.
Hi there, how you doing, Joe? You well?
Yeah, great. So, well, what a weekend to reflect on. We've talked, Kev's been in and out already. He's got his work done early tonight, so we've touched on some of the games with him. We've touched on City and United, and I do want to get your thoughts on those games. However, we haven't talked at all really about the madness that was Chelsea 3, Arsenal 2. What an insane game, what an insane first half. Just to jog people's memory. So Chelsea scored a goal. It was the Pedro goal where, Alonso gets down the left-hand side completely free and in for Pedro, and he scores. And then Morata scored, dink over the top, and you're thinking this is going to be 5 or 6. This is an embarrassment. Arsenal are missing chances in the midst of everything. And then Mkhitaryan and Iwobi with goals in the space of 4 or 5 minutes. And things calm down a touch in the second half. Hazard comes on and does his thing. Kante is starting to cheat by being an attacking midfielder now. That's a broad summation of where we are.
Yeah, that's a good covering it. Without going over the top about it, Hazard's come in both games and he's been absolutely astounding. It looks as if he's playing against kids. It's so easy for him to get by people. So he's been brilliant in the few little cameo appearances he's had, and he's just continued to make goals every time he gets. So they bring Hazard on, it makes a change, and that was the difference in Chelsea winning that game. Chelsea's defence is quite funny sometimes because they're so used to playing 3 at the back, and getting covering each other and having Kante in front of them, and then suddenly they've got Sarri comes in. He played 2 centre backs, the full backs fly forward, and the sitting midfielder is now Jorginho, who doesn't really defend. He's fabulous on the ball, but does that make it wrong? because, you know, there's been plenty of players in the past, and we can name one particular Italian who wasn't quite bad, and that's sitting midfielder passing from very, very deep. But he's not a defensive player. Hence, Arsenal got all those chances from cutbacks, and it was an extraordinary game. I'm not the best predictor of scores in the world, but in the kind of fantasy football thing I did, I went for 3-2 Chelsea before the game. They got 70 points for it. I was not surprised by it, because there's two teams that want to attack, and if we have to defend, we might think about that at some point. And do you know what? I spent last night all evening with Tony Adams. I was interviewing Tony Adams at the Edinburgh Book Festival for his new book coming out. And honestly, as soon as you bring up the subject of defending with Tony, particularly at Arsenal, you just let him go. He just rants forever about it. They're not thinking about defending now. It's just gone out of fashion. In the Premier League now, there's so many teams at the top. You know, it's just an afterthought. It's not worked on at all.
Well, I guess that's the explanation. I was about to say it's inexplicable and surmise the 2 Chelsea goals again that this is happening, but you've just said it. They don't work on it at all. Like the way Mkhitaryan just lets Alonso go for the first goal, and then the way Pedro is not kind of tracked at all. Like there's a few moments where Arsenal can really get on top of him when Alonso goes down the left-hand side, and then like the other goal where it's just dinked up to Morata, and I think it's Monreal and Mustafi, but between the two of them, he's just kind of left in a one-on-one, and in he goes. And I was about to say to you, how does this happen? And you're saying, well, it's not worked on. But like, does Mkhitaryan need to work on the fact that like you're playing in that position? Clearly Alonso is your man. Like a Sunday pub team and have a vague idea that clearly he's your man. You should track back on him. I just kind of think you're tearing your hair out. Would you not want to, even on just a very superficial level, impress the new manager?
Well, do you know the odd thing is there's generally nothing that new in football. Very rarely you get something that's completely new. But, you know, the two teams that played in the World Cup final played 4-3-3, which is very attack-minded, especially as the top three don't retract back. They just let players run off them. Now, everybody knows that means the fullbacks can run off them with impunity. And that's been happening with a lot of teams just now.
Okay.
And when you watch it happening, I mean, as I say, nothing's new in football, really. When I played at Chelsea, we played a kind of 4-3-3. But exactly what you're saying, I knew if my fullback went, I went with him. And if I didn't go with him and something happened, I had to walk in the dressing room at half-time or full-time, put my hand up and say, sorry, guys. And I can remember doing that maybe twice in my career. In my career, you know, that's 800 games, twice where I didn't follow people. And, you know, it was a mistake, you know, brain freeze for a minute. But you're seeing it all the time at the moment with top international players. And I'm like you, and I'm like most fans out there as well. I'm absolutely and utterly aghast at it. But I think it must be down to the managers. They're saying, well, you know, you're attackers.
Yeah.
You're watching the game tonight. Mo Salah, does he go back? No, he doesn't. But then who was arguing with that when he's scoring about 40 goals last season? So it's one of those things. What you gain is brilliant attack and creating more chances in a very open game. And what you lose is this phenomenal, mad openness.
Yeah.
Now, we laugh at it, but the one team at the top level, the top of the league that doesn't play like that is Manchester United. And let's be fair, they're not doing that well, are they?
Now, how's that working out for them? Yeah.
It's not. And it may well be, it goes through, football goes through these periods and these phases. And sometimes the World Cup can have a massive effect. And I think maybe people have looked at the World Cup and thought, right, attack's the way to go. Liverpool got to the Champions League final last season by a purely attacking attitude. Manchester City won the league by having that attitude.
Yeah.
You know, and teams are doing well with it.
I don't want to like make the mistake of reading too much into a manager's comments after a game, but like Emery after the City game was asked about Ozil and how hard he worked defensively and then the team generally, and Emery said every player needs to defend in the true moments of a match. Every player needs that commitment. For me, we need to start together whether we're attacking or we're defending. So that is, if we are to take that to the bank, that is Emery's philosophy. So that does not tally with what he saw Mkhitaryan do right in front of his touchline. So the interesting question is, between now and November, when is the next time Arsenal face a top six side in Liverpool? They've got a great run now. It's going to be very interesting to see what Arsenal emerges over the next 2 months.
Yeah, I'd be keen to see it. Will he get that work rate out of them? Now, Mesut Ozil, we all know his capabilities. I think you always have to say that. But you watched him in the World Cup, and I was at a few Germany games at the World Cup, and the work rate was negligible going back. So that he's not been asked to do it with the national team. And it looks as if he's not really willing to do it, and he doesn't feel as if he should be doing it. He's in number 10 position. And it was a classic moment when playing against Chelsea, and Jorginho was getting the ball like so many times. He was just on the ball constantly. Well, he's the sitting midfielder, and he's playing against Ozil, who's the 10. Well, you got to mark him. It's simple. But he wasn't going near him. So it's that. Mkhitaryan's not noted for his defending, but you've got to go and get yourself in a position. Look, there's many of us who are attack-minded players who are not the best defenders in the world, but you know how to get yourself into a position where the player has to get by you, or you can slow him down, or you can show him wide.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple stuff, but it is stunning to see so few people, so many big team players not doing it now.
In big games, yeah. Not to ask a stupid question. Why is the best defensive midfielder in the world not just playing in defensive midfield? Like, why can't this be arranged somehow? Why is Kante doing what he's doing?
Well, I've been asking this question. I write a column for the Chelsea website, and I've asked this question 3 weeks in a row. And the answer is, actually, you're going to help me here. Who's the best sitting midfielder that Italy have ever had? It's Andrea Pirlo, isn't it? Right. Pirlo was amazing in that position. Sat at the back, sprayed the ball, controlled the game, absolutely dominated all games. Couldn't generally tackle a fish supper.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
Now, Jorginho's the same. I'm not saying he's as good a passer, but he controls pace of the game, on the ball all the time. A lot of the time plays the right passes. He's actually made a couple of mistakes this season already. But generally, he can control the game. But to do that, you have to be central. And if you're playing 4-3-3, you have to be the central guy. So you've no longer got Kante in there. Now, you're thinking Kante must play, so he will play somewhere. You'll find a place for him. And he made some amazing runs and done some amazing things, but he wasn't as good as he is at his normal position.
No.
So you're going to have to find a way. Now, watching the way he got his Napoli team playing Sarri, he should find a way. He knows 4-3-3 better than anyone else. And it may well be that he will find a way. Somebody has to play a half position. Kante gets a little bit closer on the right, and whoever's on the left, gets, makes it a little bit wider, goes a bit further forward. I don't know what the answer he's going to come up with, but I've been asking that question every single week. Now, if you're him, you've got 3 players in the middle. You've got to play Kante. You cannot drop Kante.
Yeah.
Jorginho's his main man. You won't drop him. So now you've got a list, and I've got it down here. You've got Cesc Fabregas, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, who's just bought, who come on and looked lovely, and a great player. Drinkwater, Barkley, who's been playing. All 5 players, all like international class players, all playing for one position. And it's not going to be the best player that gets there. It's the one that makes the balance right with the 3. And that's what you're waiting to see. The balance hasn't been right for Chelsea. But somehow, I just get the feeling Sarri's going to find a way. But like you, it's kind of not perfectly suited to Kante being not there. And the other thing is, you talked about those cutbacks. Arsenal kept on getting to the byline, kept on cutting the ball back, exactly into the area that N'Golo Kante instinctively always stands. And if anyone, and if eventually you'll start seeing it with the pundits and the TV, they'll start showing you where Jorginho goes at that moment. He doesn't chase back. He walks. Yeah. He doesn't run in. He doesn't read it. And you think, how terrible is that? Well, it only looks terrible because you've watched Kante doing it. So the answer to the question is, we don't know yet. And it's interesting to see it. If he gets it right, it'll look brilliant. I can't see how it's going to work right yet, but that doesn't mean to say it won't work right eventually for Chelsea.
Okay, we'll watch this space. As we leave that game, my favourite Sarri story from the weekend, I didn't realise this. So Sarri's puffing away on 4 or 5 smokes an hour. That's an hour. He is a chimney. And he's rumoured to be in talks with Chelsea to get a green light to build a smoking area in the training ground, because frankly, if you're smoking 4 or 5 an hour, you need one. Haven't at Napoli, haven't at Leipzig. Sarri's puffing on 5 an hour. That's not good.
It's not going to look good in front of the players. Some players do smoke. Not a lot. I wouldn't say 4 or 5 an hour. You're right. The oddness of it is, if you're doing that and you need that, and you're addicted to that, spending time with players and, in buildings, because it's like in the UK, there's no buildings anywhere where you can smoke. So he's going to have to try and find places and get places built for him. Yeah. You suspect he's not going to be able to change now in the age he is. But, he's a very interesting character. And like a lot of the guys in the game just now, you're going to enjoy some of the things he says. He comes with a completely different attitude. And purely by his attitude, see if he doesn't win anything this year at Chelsea, for the first time ever, I don't think he's in danger of getting sacked. Because I think he'll play interesting football.
Yeah.
He'll play exciting football. Every week, betting 4 or 5 goals being scored in Chelsea games. I don't know who's going to score them, Chelsea for or against, but it's going to be so exciting to watch them. And I think that's what the owner wanted more than anything else. And the lovely thing is, see if you're a footballer, it's brilliant playing in that. Well, it's terrible if you're a defender because you're left wide open all the time.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the reason why he smokes so much, because it puts so much pressure on and it's so exciting and so stressful all the time.
You can generally bet when Manchester City are playing there'll be goals. There were 7 at the weekend, and you can also generally bet that they'll score at least 4 when that happens. As it happens, they scored 6. They went with a 3-5-2, which is kind of interesting. Aguero and Jesus, they scored 4 between them, a hat-trick for Aguero. David Silva was just... I mean, I know you rave about Silva. I know you have a deep love for David Silva and his pass appreciation and his movement. And we were just talking here with Kev earlier, and you think what he's been through with his son, and suddenly his son's at the ground and his partner's at the ground. Like, he played with a lightness, like there was an energy about him, and it made the first half just a joy to watch in particular.
Fabulous release as well. I mean, every player who's had a length of career has had some terrible times to go through, whether it's losing a parent, losing someone close to you, having whatever struggles that we all do as human beings go through, and people generally don't know about it. And quite often, the one place where you've got, space where you can get your head clear, is actually on that football pitch. And you could just see it. He was bouncing, he was smiling, he was seeing everything before everyone else. And it was classically the amount of people that were asking, last week, what's going to happen without Kevin De Bruyne? And I'm thinking, you've got David Silva. it's quite good. I don't know why anyone was waiting. Oddly enough, I was talking to Sean Goater.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the goat? I was talking to him about
it. Who could forget the goat?
And when he was brilliant, and he was sounding slightly concerned, and I'm going, don't be stupid. Don't even be slightly concerned about that. In fact, it might even be a positive thing, because De Bruyne will actually get a rest now, an enforced rest. And when he comes back in November, because it is the type of injury he's got, it's a set time. It's not something that's going to affect him long term. He'll be absolutely fine when he comes back. He'll be the same player, but he will have rested because he didn't get a lot of rest during the World Cup. And he is one of these players that he doesn't cruise about not trying in any games. He puts everything in. So, he's not superhuman. He could have probably done with it. So it's an enforced rest. He's got it. And it probably won't be the worst thing in the world, because City will be in top of the league when he comes back. City will still be in the Champions League when he comes back, but he'll be fresh as well. And, what an extra that will be adding to that team. Really, really struggling to find a weakness there in that team. We were watching the Liverpool game tonight.
Yeah, it's still 1-0.
And they thinking they must be the closest. But watching them tonight, and I'm sure you probably feel the same, and anyone watching will feel the same, they're a long way behind City.
Yeah,
long.
City, do you feel like City are going to a new level under Pep again? Like almost with each passing season, they kind of move up a gear in terms of understanding what he wants.
Yeah, I think so. Mahrez just looks fabulous when he's come on. So you can add that to it, which is scary. But I do really think, and I try not to say the same thing every week, but Mandy's the answer. You put him in left back position. It's just hilarious where he picks the ball up, the quality of his crosses, that how good he is as a defender as well. I mean, I've said it, I never feared playing against anyone. You just go out and play against a guy, don't care who you are, what your name is. Tell you what, that'd have been a tough one.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have been enjoyable playing against him.
There's no obvious weakness there. We've about kind of 90 seconds, 2 minutes territory. We're going to play an interview Gary Breen, who was on commentary with Dave McIntyre, did after the game at the Amex in a couple of minutes. So they were fresh from that game, and I suspect kind of shell-shocked or certainly buzzed up by just how bad Manchester United were. Like, what are you making of this? I mean, like, is this going to settle down, or are you starting to think this may have the look of something a bit more serious in the short term for Manchester United with Mourinho, and he's gone in as favourite now to be the first man out?
Well, we talked about it last year, and I kept on saying, no, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think Mourinho will get the best out of them. He's just a winner. I didn't think he would beat City, but again, he got second place. But you're right. This is different. This definitely feels different. You just look at the body language around the group, and it looked particularly bad in that game. The lack of fight, and it didn't look like a World Cup hangover to me. The players, it just looked like it's strangely disorganised. And I think Mourinho at the moment finds himself caught between a couple of rocks and a couple of hard places. Number one, he didn't get the defenders he wanted, so he's not very happy about that, and I don't think he's very good at hiding it.
Yeah.
But he knows he's got a weakness there. So what he would do when he finds his team not cruising like that, he will go back to basics, and he'll put a team out that's incredibly hard to beat, that's very structured, very strong, very one-dimensional, and that's fine, except that it's Manchester United. And the United fans have had enough of that.
Yeah.
And there's a few players there that look as if they've had enough of it as well. So he's got into that position, and he's now getting very close. I agree. I think he's getting very close to that position where he has been before with other clubs, particularly with Chelsea on his last occasion there, where the players are looking around thinking, I don't know if I want to do it really for you. And the quote's coming out. So I'm not saying it's finished. I'm definitely not saying that. But the fact that he's not got an ability to bring anyone else in now, I think that's a killer for him. That's a really tough one for him. He's going to have to manipulate and get the best out of those players. And I think that's a tough job he's got on. Second place is going to be tougher for them this year.
Gary Neville on Monday Night Football showed a clip of Ed Woodward sitting in his seat at full time for another 2-3 minutes, just sitting there. And Neville was saying, like, this is a display of some kind of discord here. Like, you should just get up, shake the hand of the opposing director or chief executive and just move in. But he sat there kind of glaring on the pitch. Just another sign that this whole thing's a bit funny. So it's all kind of mounting up in different angles.
You can feel it, and everybody's spotting it now that it's different. It's different this season even than it was last season. The oddness of the fact that Luke Shaw seems to be the one that he's getting most out of is quite ridiculous. But we know what Mourinho's strength is. If he gets that centre-back pairing, two big, strong centre-halves, he gets Matic back in there, Pogba in there playing at his best, Lukaku up front. It's a big, strong, hard-to-beat unit.
Yeah.
But he's got to get them all buying into it. And, when you see that group, Matic obviously wasn't there, but that group not exactly buying into it, that's a really concerning time. You can play football that's not pleasing on the eye at Manchester United as long as you're winning. You can't if you're not winning and you're not playing well. So, I would agree now. It's very, very early days. I don't think he's ready to be sacked, but it's much, much more concerning than any other period during his time at Manchester United.
OK, Pat. We'll leave it there. Mane's just scored a second for Liverpool on the break. We'll leave it there. Thanks a million, Pat.
Pleasure, guys.
Cheers. Pat Nevin there. Mane, breakaway goal. Salah from a corner, sprinted half the pitch, gave it to Mane. Mane finished. Boom, 2-0. Liverpool home and hosed into injury time. Gary Breen, who was at the Amex with Dave, is on the way.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
If this was tennis, you'd be watching the greats go for a Grand Slam with a glass in your hand.
If this was a Grand Prix, you'd be watching amazing machines whiz by. And if this was rugby, you'd be among thousands watching the best teams on earth battle it out. Longines Irish Champions Weekend is that big. Be at one of the world's finest horse racing events on Irish soil. 15th and 16th of September, Leopardstown and the Curragh. Visit irishchampionsweekend.ie.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So Dundalk with a 2-0 win over Sligo in the Electricity League this evening, and Liverpool has just gone full time, also with a 2-0 win against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. Dave McIntyre on commentary duty alongside Gary Breen to watch Manchester United lose 3-2 against Brighton, and the lads had a wee chat afterwards.
Gary Breen, you were with us all day. I mean, pathetic, appalling, lacking in any quality needed to win a game in the Premier League. That's pretty much a lot of the things you could say about United's performance today.
I think they're certainly the words that Manchester United fans would look to describe their performance, because it looked unworthy of a Manchester United team. When you think about Manchester United and the quality that they possess, normally it was nowhere near that level, and you can argue that and say, well, listen, these are not guys who are coming through the ranks who are inexperienced. That's a squad and a team built through with a lot of money, a lot of investment. But the most concerning thing was how much they were bullied from start to finish, and there's real problems at Manchester United right now.
Yes, you can say there were defensive mistakes. They led to the goals, but there were 2 shots on target in the entire game. There was a problem at the other end of the field as well. There's a problem with energy, with attitude. There was no urgency. Then you never felt like they were desperately chasing the game. It must be a real alarm call for Jose Mourinho and his coaching staff and the supporters when they see how little United seem to give to the game today.
Well, listen, I think straight away Mourinho will probably say, well, you've seen an example of what he's probably seen week in, week out on the training field, a lack of desire, really. And that's the most awful thing to be accused of as a player. But I think you're right. I think defensively, when you think about Jose Mourinho's brilliant teams at Real Madrid, at Chelsea, they were all built, and Inter Milan, on a good defensive structure, reliable players. And they had none of that today. Bayu, I think, is the best centre-half in the club, was way below his standard. Lindelof looks like a player who's come through the ranks. He looks like someone, and I don't mean like a John O'Shea, who had more composure as a young player than him. I mean like a Scott Wharton, a Keane, a young Keane, something like that. He certainly doesn't look like a £30 million player who's come from Benfica. So that's up to the manager. And the stick that you can beat Mourinho with is that he didn't get him in that winter window, and then he went hard for him in the summer. And that made me think, OK, you've identified a centre-half who could probably solve all your problems, but he's been woefully short of that. Add to that then your leader, your captain. It looks like he's trying to cajole a performance and add more discipline to Pogba's game. But he was everything that you think is bad about Pogba's game. Passing was erratic at best. His inability to dominate a midfield area when he had 3 in there with him against Brighton's 2. We said Dale Stephens was man of the match, and him and Proper just dominated that area convincingly. United started well for the first 10 minutes. We thought that the 3 in midfield would overpower Brighton, but it didn't turn out that way, and Brighton were comfortable winners. And normally when you're playing against United in these situations, you feel like it's back to the walls for the last 20 minutes, where you think they're going to throw everything at you. It's going to be so hard. I've been in that situation before where I've been leading against United. Invariably, you end up losing by 3-2, 4-2, whatever. I think Shane Duffy will probably look at his defenders and his goalkeeper and think, well, that was far comfortable than I ever thought it would be.
It's Tottenham next for Manchester United at Old Trafford. They'll have watched this performance and thought, like, what an opportunity to go there and win at a ground where they've had a very poor record over the last 20 years. What does Jose Mourinho do? Because it's not like he's got a whole host of guys to come back in. Yes, Nemanja Matic is missing, and he's obviously a key part of this team. Antonio Valencia was missing. That's pretty much it. There was no Alexis Sanchez today, but he hasn't been lighting it up from United either towards the end of last season or against Leicester City in the opening game of this season. So it's this group of players he needs to get a reaction out of, and if he doesn't, it's a terrible reflection on him, isn't it? And suddenly the questions that were being asked in the weeks before the season, how long will we see Jose Mourinho last this season, will they start to be asked again?
Yeah, I think they will, and I think that's the type of performance that managers lose their job from. I look at the situation in terms of what's happening in the Premier League, and notably what's happening in Manchester with the blue shadow that Pep Guardiola has created. I genuinely believe that Mourinho was the man to take him on, because he's done it before against his iconic Barcelona team with a Real Madrid team. But they had players of far superior quality to Manchester United. The very fact that he's had millions and millions to spend to get a team in his image, and yet I'm looking at that and they're nowhere near what you normally associate with a Jose Mourinho team, in that defensively strong, and then they have that creative players to do something out of nothing and win games comfortably. I think he looks at that. I don't think he likes that team. I don't think he trusts them more than anything. And I think you're looking at that scenario now, 3 years into it now, where you say now they'll play Tottenham, and everyone was talking about Tottenham's lack of investment, but Pochettino's got a squad and a team who know exactly what their manager wants, and they produce it for him more often than not. Their biggest problem, Tottenham, is having the mental strength to go that final distance. But in terms of them going up against that Manchester United team and that performance, they'll brush them aside comfortably.
Well, finally, I'm looking for a knee-jerk reaction from you to this question. Will Jose Mourinho still be the manager on Christmas Day?
Well, I believe that he is the manager to take United and compete against Guardiola, but certainly on that, what we've seen today, that evidence suggests no. I know everyone will talk about the third season syndrome, and we've seen it before at Chelsea, so there will be questions asked, but I'll be fascinated to see his post-match interview now and how he actually explains what his Manchester United team has just given him.
Interesting. His explanation, incidentally, was we made mistakes and they were punished. That was the standard Mourinho line with everybody he spoke to. So that's Gary Breen and Pat Nevin both agreeing there. This feels a bit more worrying and a bit different to last season when things were wobbling. So we'll have to see how this plays out. It's Spurs this day next week, by the way. It's the Monday Night Football game, Manchester United against Spurs. We're pretty much done for today. So, God, really busy day, really busy show. OTBAM had great stuff with the Limerick Hurlers this morning. They're back tomorrow, 7:45. Ger and Owen on the way. You can get that on youtube.com/offtheball, facebook.com/offtheball, or just keep an eye on Twitter and you'll see the lads posting plenty of links to the show. We're back tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Andy Lee's going to be in studio. I'm sure he's a very happy Limerick man. And we will see if he has a voice left. Shane Dowling's going to join us. We tried to get him today, but needless to say, he was pretty busy. So Shane Dowling will be back in the show as well. A few other bits besides. That is us done. You can download all tonight's good stuff. Tom Dunn is on the way next.
Give him a ball and a yard of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass. my ball any outer space.